Disappeared from a supermarket.
She was out shopping with her mum, who turned around for a split second and her daughter was gone.
Right now, live, we need your help to find her. This is Missing Live. This morning, we need your help to find some of the 200,000 people who go missing every year in the UK.
If you've got information on any of the cases you see on today's programme, the police and the charity Missing People are here to take your calls. In fact, the Met Police had a call yesterday on the case of Nadia Grant. Sergeant Dave Brewster's with me again. What's the latest on that then?
Well, after yesterday's show, we had 2 calls to unconfirmed sightings of Nadia, one in Kent, which we forward all the details on to Kent Police, and they're kindly assisting us with that one, and the other in the North London area, in Tottenham.
Brilliant. Whereabouts in Kent was that then?
Kent, it was on the Isle of Sheppey.
So it's not that far away from where she originally went from, really, is it?
Not really, and the call to Tottenham, bearing in mind she was missing from Hackney, it's literally miles away.
Very close. Well, fingers crossed she gets in touch today then. Louise?
Yes, you really can make a difference. There's already been a huge response on the case of 14-year-old Andrew Gosden. Dozens of calls. Thank you for those, and we'll be bringing you more on that later in the programme. We also need your help to solve a real mystery. This man has no memory of who he is or where he's from. He's one of 100 unidentified people that Missing People are currently dealing with. Do you know anything about him that could put him in touch with his missing past?
But first, in the North East, Darlington Police have received an urgent call. In County Durham, Inspector Steve Ball is heading a missing persons investigation. 53-year-old Mike Hunter disappeared from his home 8 weeks ago. Inspector Ball is going to update his wife Linda about a development in the case. Someone has seen Mike.
And certainly from the press releases we've seen, we've had unconfirmed sightings west of Darlington out towards the countryside and the Pennines, which would seem to fit in with what you've said and where you like to go. Does Michael have the experience to be able to know when to perhaps decide to stay and find shelter if you get caught out in poor conditions? Would he have that sort of experience, do you think?
I've never done that before,
You've
but
never done it, right.
I think it's possible.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mike and Linda Hunter live in Darlington in County Durham. They met over 30 years ago.
I just really liked him. He was someone I was comfortable with straight away, and both wanderers, we liked walking. So we spent most of our time walking miles in the country.
Their son Matthew was born in 1983.
It was great. We took Matthew along to everything we'd done previously, so when he was 6 months old, he went out on the back of the tandem, which he loved.
Remember him, I suppose, someone quite quiet, but always there and always kind and loving. And I know that birds and nature always meant a great deal to him. He and my mum, that's one of the things that they really shared together.
Mike has always been fit and active, but a year and a half ago, he fell ill.
Just before Christmas 2006, he found a small lump on the left side of his neck, and it turned out to be cancerous.
He became very worried and anxious at that time, and although his physical prognosis was really quite good and positive, he just never really seemed to see things as positive.
It's very common for cancer patients to suffer depression. Over 50% are affected during or after treatment. Earlier this year, Mike gets more bad news.
Mike's mum, Connie, she died on January the 14th. And the funeral was on the 24th of January. And it was arranged that we'd all go to see Connie in the restrooms.
On the day of the funeral, all the family are gathered at Mike and Linda's house.
We got ready to go out, and Mike hadn't got ready at that point. So we just asked him if he was still coming. And he said that he didn't feel up to it, so Matthew and I just went out ourselves. When we came back at lunchtime, my brother George said that Mike had gone out just after we left, and that he said he wouldn't be long. And then we went out again to go to Connie's funeral, hoping that we'd see Mike at the church, but he didn't turn up. After the funeral, when we still hadn't seen him, I contacted the police then to report him missing.
Later on Missing Live. After 4 days, the police are on Mike's trail.
We're out searching for Mr. Michael Hunter, and this follows a possible sighting of him on the fell.
And we'll find out more about where that trail leads a little bit later in the programme. We're joined now by the BBC newsreader Nicholas Owen, who has, like Michael, had his own personal battle with cancer. Morning to you.
Good morning.
You had kidney cancer. Do you understand what Mike is going through then?
Yes, I do, very much. I think we all feel indestructible, don't we, until something overwhelms us, and particularly if there are other family connections, as in this case. There is a strange business. First of all, you go through a big operation, like I did in my case 5.5 years ago, and that's a pretty terrifying thing to do. And then there's a wonderful feeling of elation when you realise that actually you've got a good chance of getting on with the rest of your life, and people are very positive, which is good. And many people who suffer from cancer, that is the case. It can be a very positive thing. And then the period of what I might call reflection and sets in, and that's very often a time when you don't feel quite so good about the whole thing.
Because Mike was getting better, so that is when people can feel low, is it? When actually they are on the way to being better?
Yes, I think that's right. As I say, battling through, getting the bad news, having someone say, you've got cancer. Wait, me? No, you can't be talking about me, surely. Somebody else. No, it's me. Oh, goodness. So you then have to deal with that. And they've come through all that. And as I say, it is that later period, I think, when the realisation hits you. And that can be a very difficult time.
Also, your father, I know, died of cancer, and Mike's mother. So does that have an impact as well, the fact that your parents suffered from the same thing?
Yes, it does. I mean, in my case, not the same cancer. And I would make this point. Every single cancer is different, and everybody should remember that. We're all individuals, and our diseases are individual as well. But yes, it did in my case. My dad died of cancer, and obviously I thought back to that, and you think to yourself, oh my goodness, there's sort of inevitable family connection here, and am I doomed as well? All those thoughts come flooding into your mind, and no matter how rational you want to be and how grown up you want to be, and everyone says, you know, I'm not sure anyone actually used that terrible word, you're being so brave, but I hate that word brave. You're not brave, you just have to deal with these things as you go along.
You say
it can be very difficult.
Yeah, you say deal with them, but how did you stay positive then? And you also had a job to do too, didn't you?
Well, I suppose I was lucky in a way, if you can get luck out of these things. I was in my mid-50s, so I could say to myself, well, you've had a jolly good time already, I mean. I was fortunate in that the sort of cancer that I had kidney cancer, so out comes a kidney, and that's really it. There's not much else you can do about it. You then have to keep your fingers terribly crossed, which I continue to do, that it hasn't spread and that the other kidney isn't a problem. So I did stay positive. One of the things that happened that was lovely, I was away from my work as a newscaster for a long time, but my colleagues kept me in touch. That was lovely. There was one particular chap who used to ring me every week from the office at least once a week and give me all the gossip. So by the time I went back to work after 9 weeks, I knew more about the office gossip than most people who work there.
My husband's had cancer as well, as you know, because we've talked about this before. He did go and see a counsellor, and that really helped him. Can you understand, though, that feeling that perhaps Mike may have had, would actually just want to disappear?
Yes, I think this is a very, very important point. There are organisations out there that can help, and you know, anybody, don't be afraid to use them. I didn't actually. I didn't sort of need to because of all the other things we've said. But I want to say Macmillan Cancer Support. Everybody's heard about Macmillan nurses, but listen, Macmillan have a fantastic service offering counselling's a word I hate. You know, advice, friendship, they're there. I mean, make use of it. There's the website, their phone numbers, you know. It's easy to find those sort of people.
OK, and you are going to stay with us, so you can talk a little bit more about that later throughout the programme. Also, if you'd like to contact us, you can email missing.live@bbc.co.uk, or you can write to us as well, PO Box 63814, London, N11HF.
Leanne Seychelles is 14. She's been missing from Lambeth in South London since the 25th of March this year. Now, people are really worried about her. If you know anything about where she might be, please call Missing People. The number's on your screen right now.
It's every parent's worst fear. You're out shopping, you turn your back just for a second. Suddenly, your child's not there. They've gone. It happened to one mum, and her daughter is still missing. This is Natasha Lee. Every year on November the 28th, Natasha finds a way to remember her sister, Katrice. 26 years ago on this day, Katrice simply disappeared. It was her second birthday. Sharon and Richard Lee were married in 1972. Natasha was their first little girl. Richard was a sergeant in the King's Royal Hussars, and the army transferred him abroad.
We were posted to Germany in 1979 when I was 7 months pregnant with Katrice, and that's how we started off in Germany. That's how we ended up in Germany.
The family's new home was the army base in Paderborn. It's a small town, 250 kilometres north of Frankfurt. On November the 28th, 1979, Natasha's baby sister, Katrice, was born.
She made the family unit complete. We wanted 2 children. We had 2 children. It was a marvellous thing. It was 2 wonderful years that we had with Katrice.
Tasha absolutely adored her. As soon as Tasha came home from school, that was the first thing she'd do, was sort of go with her sister.
I was really proud of the fact that I was the big sister and that I looked after her. And she was just, she loved me and I loved her, and that's basically it, really.
November the 28th, 1981. It's Katrice's second birthday.
My elder sister also lived out in Germany, and she was coming over for the day. We were going to have like a small party in the afternoon.
I remember walking up to my mum and saying to my mum, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm getting ready to go shopping to get the stuff for Katrice's party." And I said, "I don't want to go shopping today, Mum." And she said, "Fine, you don't have to go, you can stay."
We went down to a little place called Sloshnoi House, where the NAFI was, which was a military shop.
It was really, really busy. It was the last soldier's payday before Christmas.
So you can well imagine the volume of people on the size of a postage stamp, and the traffic was absolutely horrendous.
Richard dropped us off and went to find a car space, and Wendy and myself and Katrice went into the supermarket. Went all the way around getting bits and pieces for the party and other groceries besides. As I got to the checkout, I suddenly remembered that I'd forgotten the crisps. So I placed Katrice on the floor and said to my sister, "I'll leave her here with you and I'm just going back to get some crisps." It wasn't that far away from the checkout. Went back to get the crisps, picked the crisps up, and as I got back to the checkout, I said to my elder sister, "Where's Katrice?" And she said, "Well, she ran after you when you went to get the crisps." I ran back up the aisle where I thought Katrice had gone. There was nobody there, literally nothing.
Richard parks and goes inside the supermarket to meet his wife and daughter.
I had a gut reaction that something wasn't right. There was no sign of the wife or a sister, and it was then brought to my attention that Katrice had gone missing. I spotted people in the crowd who was my unit, and we'd done an immediate search.
We looked, checked all around the food hall, the corridor leading into it, and she couldn't be found.
So we then informed the military police by telephone from the NAFI office.
Later in the programme, everyone on the army base joins the hunt for Katrice.
soldiers, done a lot of searching on the ground, on the surrounding areas. You know, we could hear mothers and fathers out there shouting Katrice's name through the woods.
If you think you know anything about Katrice and what might have happened, please call Missing People. Now, Terry, a toddler going missing, that really is unusual, isn't it?
It is really unusual. In fact, a lot of cases with children going missing in these sorts of things is actually parental abductions, but this doesn't seem to be the case in this case of Katrice. But what we're happy to say at Missing People, we know that the majority of our cases do return safe and well within 72 hours, so that's very positive. But unfortunately, in this case, that hasn't happened.
No, I mean, obviously, this is a massive timescale since this happened. So is there anything you can do at Missing People to sort of keep it in the public eye?
Yes, it is. I mean, we try and publicise all of our cases where appropriate, and in a case like this with Katrice, because it's been a long time, we're able to offer age progression, and I'm the forensic artist at Missing People, so I can do age progressions of long-term cases. For children, it's only a few years. If they've been missing. For adults, it might be longer, but that's a great way to produce an image of what they might look like now, use that in publicity in the hope they'll get a bit more information about either where they are now or at least what happened to them originally.
Fantastic. So what about yesterday then? Have we had any response?
We have a great response.
Brilliant.
We had a lot of phone calls, and in fact the phones didn't stop ringing for 2 hours, so that was great. We took a lot of calls on a lot of the cases featured, in particular with Andrew Gosden. Had a lot of positive sightings. They're unconfirmed, so we need to be following those up, and we'll be working with police on those. But a lot of them were around the London area, so we're hopeful that something might lead to finding out where Andrew is.
He's the 14-year-old that was previously seen in London, so the fact you're getting more sightings in London is really encouraging, isn't
Exactly. We've had confirmation from police that Andrew did show up in London fairly early on. It seems he may well still be in London, so obviously we're asking for more calls just to see if we can figure out where he is.
Let's hope so. Let's hope all our cases get a good response. Thank you. See you later.
Alan Templeton from Pitlochry in Scotland was 25 when he went missing in November 2006. He hasn't been seen since leaving a friend's flat in Edinburgh, although there was an unconfirmed sighting of him in the West End of London in April last year. If you know anything about Alan's disappearance or have any information on any of the appeals you've seen on the programme, please call Missing People. Their 24-hour confidential free phone number is 0500 700 700, although costs from mobiles may vary.
Your help is needed to solve a real-life mystery now, the case of a man with a missing memory. He has no idea who he is. Perhaps you do.
May 2000, Oldham Town Centre in Lancashire. A man suffering from hypothermia and falls unconscious. He's seriously ill and is rushed to hospital. When the man wakes up, he doesn't know where he's from or if he has any family. He has no identification on him. He doesn't even know his own name. In fact, the man hasn't a single memory from his entire life. Now, 8 years later, and he still has no idea who he is. The people caring for him want to find the identity of their mystery man.
I truly believe, you know, he's somebody's father, somebody's grandfather, somebody's uncle.
Because he has no ID, he can't register for a pension or even apply for a bus pass. Put simply, in the eyes of the law, this man doesn't exist. Experts have established that the man has suffered a type of brain damage known as ABI.
ABI stands for acquired brain injury, and it's damage to the brain that is sustained in one's lifetime, usually in adulthood or latest kind of adolescence, as opposed to perhaps a condition that you're born with.
ABI can be brought on by anything that damages the brain, but no one knows what happened 8 years ago to cause this man's total memory loss.
Road traffic accident is quite common. You could fall, have an accident, fall and bang your head, or even an assault.
His brain injury has also severely impaired his speech.
Obviously, because he's got limited language, it has been extremely difficult. So part of a rehabilitation programme is absolutely documenting every key word that he would say and focusing in on those key words. Whiskey.
It's these words that could unravel the mystery of who this man is. His carers encourage him to speak, hoping that he'll reveal more details from his past.
Was he good? Was he good? Was he a good boxer?
Yeah.
And were you a boxer? Did you box? Ah, I think you did.
He'll say the word boxing. What stemmed from that over a period of time, that he's used the word army. Is that in relation to, has he been in the army, or is he just connecting that with recent TV programmes that he's currently watching?
He's Tipperary now.
They've gone to Tipperary, or were they from Tipperary?
Yeah.
Yeah?
When it said, for instance, Tipperary, we would actually say, are you from Tipperary? Sometimes we would get more information from that key word.
Tipperary.
You were in Tipperary a long time ago?
Yeah.
Yeah?
The reference to Tipperary and his Irish accent leads to this remarkable story catching the attention of the Irish media, and there's an appeal on their national news.
Authorities in England have tonight issued an appeal to the Irish public for help in identifying a man who has no idea who he is. From his accent and other indicators, it's believed that the man is Irish.
8 weeks after the appeal on Irish television, still no one has come forward to solve this mystery. Until someone recognises him, or if he can remember something from his own past, his carers have given him a temporary identity.
He has been given a name, he's been given a date of birth, he's been known as David for nearly 8 years now.
They estimate he's around 70, but they'd much prefer to find out the real facts about his life.
If we could actually find and discover David's true identity, that could only enhance his quality of life and to actually enable him to find out who he is.
That is a bizarre case. Terry, I was a police officer for 8 years in London and I dealt with a lot of missing people, but I certainly did not deal with anything like that. Is this unique?
Surprisingly enough, no, it isn't. I mean, this case is unusual in the fact that this man hasn't known who he is for a very long time. But we do actually get quite a lot of these sorts of cases, people showing up in hospital, perhaps with amnesia, confusion, maybe mental health problems. So it does happen.
So for you, it's kind of a missing persons inquiry in reverse, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we actually refer to these sorts of cases as unidentified cases. And because Missing People is a nationwide organisation, you know, these cases do come up all over the place. But it is unusual. But we're trying to find out who he is.
So what other forensic work can you normally do with a case then?
Well, in unidentified cases, alive or deceased, as the case can often be, we will do publicity. In some of the deceased cases, as the forensic artist at Missing People, I actually produce post-mortem images and facial reconstructions so that we can produce a sanitised image that we can then use in publicity if something appropriate. People can visualise and hopefully give us some information.
But with a case like this, you really don't have a great deal to go on, do you?
We don't, unfortunately, no. I mean, obviously we've got photos and film of this man in the hope that somebody might recognise him. We've got a physical description and a few tiny pieces of information from what the workers with him have got from him. Otherwise, not very much to go on at all.
Do a lot of your cases involve memory loss?
Quite a few do. Luckily, a lot of the alive unidentified cases we come up with, people are able to give us a little bit more information, and they usually resolve them fairly quickly because somebody may have been reported missing.
We'll have more on forensics later, Terry. Thank you.
Well, we know that this man, David, suffers from ABI. Mike Oddie, you're a specialist in this type of brain injury. Is this a reason that people could go missing, the fact that they've had an injury like this?
Yes, people do go missing as a result of brain injuries because they become very confused and they wander off, and they may not have the ability to problem solve in order to find their way back.
How important then is it to find out who he is and perhaps get him together with people from his past?
I think it is important because the way that memory works is that it works on associations, and piecing together memories are very important. So if somebody can give a cue or a clue to the person, then they may well be able to remember more.
And would that help his recovery as well, if we did manage to find out who he is?
Yes. I mean, I don't know this gentleman, but as I understand it, he has a dysphasia, a language problem, as well as probably memory problems. So that makes it difficult for him to express what he knows about himself. So it may not be that he's forgotten his own identity, but simply that he can't describe that to other people.
OK, thank you very much for that. And we've already had one call, actually, about David. If you think you know who he is, please call Missing People 0500 700 700. All calls are free and confidential. Mobile charges may vary.
It's exactly 12 weeks since Mike Hunter left home. He was seen walking towards the North Pennines, but where is he now? Perhaps you know the answer.
53-year-old Mike Hunter's from County Durham. 12 weeks ago, he disappeared. Last year, Mike successfully battled with cancer, but then became depressed. On January the 24th this year, the day of his mother's funeral, Mike goes missing. His wife Linda reports his disappearance to police. Inspector Steve Ball is now leading the investigation.
We took the report from his family, and immediately we had real concern about Michael Hunter's welfare. We really had to get moving with trying to locate Michael, so concerned as we were.
Within hours, there's a sighting. A friend of Mike's has seen him.
There was a report made from a gentleman in Piedmont Road in Darlington to say he'd seen Michael at 4 p.m. He has worked with Michael at the hospital in the past, so we're quite convinced it was a genuine sighting.
But by the time the police get there, there's no sign of Mike. His case is circulated to the press. People in the area are asked to be on the lookout. Four days later, there's news. A woman calls from Walsingham. It's 20 miles from where the Hunters live.
A gentleman fitting that description had been in earlier in the week asking for local information on the walks, and in particular the Bradley area of Walsingham. You know, he was all bundled up for the weather with his woolly hat and waterproof on, just like a typical walker that we get in all the time.
5 hours later, there's a second sighting, 12 miles from the first.
A phone call came in from a gamekeeper at Bollyhope, near a place called Walsingham, which is West Durham, County Durham. And that gentleman had been out on the moor and had seen somebody who fitted the description we'd circulated of Michael Hunter.
Dozens of search and rescue volunteers are assembled on the moors above Durham.
We're out searching for Mr. Michael Hunter, and this follows a possible sighting of him on the fell. This is the area that we're going to search, and we've got what we call a PLS, a point last seen, which is just here, which is about 1 kilometre from where we're currently located. We're going to focus the search on that area. Any luck down there, or is it...
No, we searched the gully.
Right.
Down to the first tree, there's no signs of life.
But after 36 hours, the operation is called off. They've still not found Mike. It's now 3 months since he's disappeared.
One of the big things on this is someone to share things with. And seeing we both like bird watching, I especially miss someone to go out with and to go walking and bird watching with, and just to share things we like together.
He was just always around. You know, we've always done things as kind of me, my mum and my dad, and it's really weird. They're just being two people.
If you think you've seen Mike, please get in touch. The number is on your screen now. And actually, we've got a couple of updates already for you. Terry, what's happened?
Well, I just heard from the Office of Missing People, and pleased to say that we've already had calls regarding Katrice Lee and Alan Templeton, so we're looking into those. Hopefully update you again a bit later.
OK, and we'll be speaking to Katrice's sister, actually, in the programme in just a few minutes' time. Thanks.
37-year-old Lee Egan has been missing from Telford, Shropshire for exactly a month. He's 5'10" with short brown hair. When he was last seen, he was wearing a grey jacket and blue jeans. People are very worried about Lee, so if you know anything about where he is, please contact Missing People on free phone 0500 700 700. Remember, though, mobile calls may vary.
You're out shopping, you turn around and your child has gone. That's what happened to one mum and her 2-year-old daughter, and there's been no trace of her since.
In 1981, Richard Lee was a sergeant in the British Army. He was posted to Germany. He moved over there with his wife Sharon and young daughters Natasha and Katrice. On November the 28th, the family plan a party to celebrate Katrice's 2nd birthday. Sharon went to the army supermarket. She lost sight of her daughter. Within seconds, she realises Katrice has disappeared, and they start the search for her. Hours later, there is still no sign of Katrice. Sharon and Richard have no choice but to head home.
I was just playing with my toys at home, and then the next thing I know is my dad comes in through the front door and just says, "I can't find Katrice." And I just thought, you know, you lose a toy and it turns up within a couple of hours, you know, you've put it somewhere. And it wasn't until we walked out of the flat and I could see my mum stood outside the car, and my mum was just screaming and screaming and screaming. And I've never seen my mum scream like that before, and I've never seen her scream like that again, and I don't ever want to, because if there's one thing that haunts me, hearing my mum scream like that and seeing her haunts me to this day.
Because the Lees are an army family on foreign soil, the military police take control of the investigation.
At this stage, the regiment had kicked in, and there was the family's officer was there, and they're trying to reassure Sharon.
Initially, for the first 24 hours, and my husband's regiment in particular, and all the local regiments that were stationed in the garrison at that time, were very good.
The soldiers done a lot of searching on the ground, on the surrounding areas. You know, we could hear mothers and fathers out there shouting Katrice's name through the woods.
Everyone on the army base comes out to help, but there's no trace of Katrice. The British military and German police conclude she's fallen into the River Lippe, which runs through the town.
The police believe that my daughter had wandered out of a packed supermarket, through a door that didn't open, along a packed corridor, down a ramp, across a car park, over a hedge, and fallen in the river. And that was very much the theory that was taken on board by the military authorities.
I personally believe that she was removed from the premises and she was abducted.
Although it's now 26 years since Katrice disappeared, her family is determined to keep the search for her alive.
It's very difficult as a case gets older to keep the media interested, and unfortunately one of the occasions that you can bring your child's case back into the public eye again is on an unfortunate occasion when another child goes missing.
To stimulate further press interest, forensic artists have recently created an age projection of Katrice. This is what they say the 2-year-old could look like today as a woman of 28.
This is the latest projection of what Katrice will look like. As a parent, I'm actually dumbfounded that, you know, this is my daughter. I can't hold her. I can only look at her, and that's very, very difficult.
There's not a day goes by that her family isn't thinking of Katrice.
I just asked that every Christmas, you know, that Santa would bring me my sister back. And being 7, you think that when you lay in bed at night and you pray to God that he's going to bring your sister back, and he doesn't. It's really hard.
Wherever Katrice is in the world, and I do believe that she's still in this world, I hope that she's very much loved. And I hope that she's led a happy life and is still leading a happy life. And really, that's all I can ask for, I suppose.
Well, Natasha, Katrice's sister, is here with us now, and I know it's really hard for you to even watch that film, isn't it? And it doesn't get any easier.
No, but you just never give up hope, and you become more determined to fight every year that you're going to bring Katrice home. That's what I'm going to do.
And also important years coming up as well for you, because she would be 30.
Next year, yes. I want to bring her home for her 30th birthday, because it'll be the only special birthday I've had a chance to spend with her, so.
And you miss her
Terribly.
every day still, do you?
Every single day. It doesn't get any harder. You just become a better actress. You learn to put on a front, a big face. You know, I'm happy, look at me, I'm great. And deep down, it's heartbreaking, heart-wrenching and devastating for every single member of my family.
Yeah. And you still hope. You still hope, don't you, that you're going to see
I'm going to have
her?
a home. Without a doubt, I'm going to have a home.
And over those years, have there been times when you've had any leads?
There was... About 8 years ago, we appeared on Crime. We appeared on Crime Watch, and there was a few things that the military police were chasing up. Unfortunately, some of them weren't very nice things, but they came to nothing. Unfortunately, there was a girl who walked into a police station and said, "I think I'm Katrice Lee," and when they tried to match DNA, it didn't match, and it wasn't Katrice. So.
And that's got to actually make it harder too, hasn't it, when that sort of thing happens?
But Katrice does have a squint in her eye, and she does have a birthmark on her back that looks like a rash. So.
Right. What about your mum? I know it's really hard for you to see your mum even talking about it.
It's extremely hard to see both my parents on the television speaking about it, and I can hear the emotion in their voice, which then sets me off. I'm normally quite okay if I don't see them. So.
And your dad really thinks that she was abducted. Yeah. What's your feeling?
She was abducted, possibly taken to order for a family who couldn't have children.
OK. Things have really changed, haven't they, as well, in the 26 years? Is it easier for you now to get your message out and, for example, get those photos out?
I've just done Facebook, search for Katrice Lee, which is a group, and I've emailed it to all my friends, and they've emailed it to all their friends. So it's going worldwide, Netherlands, Germany. So, and it's just a case of every time you get a little bit of media attention, you jump on it, you do as much radio as you can and things like that. So people are finally...
Where do you think she is?
I don't know. I really don't know. England, Holland, Belgium, France, she could be anywhere.
Natasha, thank you very much for coming to talk to us. Thank you for that.
Thank
you.
Brilliant.
Terry, as you've seen from the film there, Katrice would now be 28. So how would you make that image that we've just seen there? How could you reconstruct what she'd look like now?
Well, basically, we call it age progression, where we take original photos of the person who went missing, most recent photos we can. And in the case of a child, we use reference photos as well, family members, for example, using photos of Natasha. And we almost basically stretch the face of the child to the right proportions of an adult, keeping their unique features and therefore their own likeness. Update the photo, obviously, with hairstyles and so on.
I think we can see the photo that you've just, or the image that you've just made as a 28-year-old. Here, we can see it here. I mean, that doesn't even look like anything like an E-fit, for example. It's a really clear image of a person that you've made.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, we base it on original photos and try and keep the unique likeness there. This is the original photo of Katrice at age 2. Obviously, a small child, so we need to develop the adult proportions. And along with that, obviously, maturity in the face, up-to-date hair and clothing, that kind of idea.
And then we've got her as a 21-year-old as well that you've done?
Yes, this was the original age progression from 7 years ago, where basically the maturity of the face, the adult face, was put in. But then the next age progression is at age 28. And as you see here, we've basically...
Perhaps a more modern hairstyle.
We've modernised the hairstyle and added a few facial lines to add a bit of maturity to age 28 now.
OK. So you've stretched the face, but it's really important that you use the family as well to make that image.
Exactly. Obviously, reference photos of the family are really important because there will be some sort of family resemblance. But I think Natasha and her mother both look at the image now and say, oh, that looks like you, and vice versa. So that's really
And
encouraging.
I understand that already we've even had a possible sighting as well.
My understanding is, yes, we have had calls already this morning regarding this case, so it's very hopeful something might come up positive there.
Well, we all really, really hope that it leads to something. Obviously, it's important to say that the missing line, just because we're coming to a close, doesn't mean the missing line's open. It's 24 hours a day.
24 hours,
you can
yeah.
email, you can phone, so let's hope that everyone does. Thank you very much
do.
for joining us.
Thanks.
Right, yes, thanks very much for that. A little bit earlier, we were talking to Nicholas Owen as well, weren't we, about Michael Hunter, who's gone missing after he had cancer. And we were talking about how important it is. If you've got something like, there are places to go for help, aren't there?
Yes, I mentioned very briefly before, didn't I? There are organisations that are ready to help you and offer advice. I said I don't like that word counselling. It always sounds terribly sort of pompous to me, that. But and the classic one is Macmillan. It's a name that people know. They'll know about Macmillan nurses who come in and help people who have cancer. But they are called Macmillan Cancer Support now, and that's very much. They have an action line. They have you know, the usual websites and all the other things.
Is it difficult to turn to as well family? And is it easier, do you think, perhaps to go to somebody else to talk about it?
I think in many cases that is true, and I've always said that the most difficult thing about when somebody says to you, you've got a really sort of serious disease, that it's the impact on your family which is the hardest thing to take, and therefore it's often very, very difficult to talk to members of your family about it. You actually want to steer the problem away from them because you see how they suffer. So if there is another party you can go to, I think it's terrific, and you know, do it, for goodness sake.
OK, well, thanks very much for coming to talk to us, Nick. It's brilliant.
Well, already we've had, I'm hearing over 20 calls that have come in to the Missing People's charity, so I'm hoping that more are going to come in.
I've got a few updates, actually. Nadia Grant, you were talking about her a little bit earlier. There have been a couple of calls on her, particularly they're interested today, aren't they, for her?
It is a special day for Nadia Grant. She's a mother of two, and her youngest daughter is actually her second birthday, so I think any parent would want to speak to their child, so I really, really hope that she is going to get on the phone and call in about that.
And also Andrew Templeton, remember, he went missing as well in Scotland. We have had one call as well about him. And David Harrison, the man we're talking about as well, who doesn't know who he is, we've also had calls on him too. So you really are making a difference here on Missing Life. Keep those emails in.
We have had an interesting email, though, that I do have to go over. We mentioned in group call yesterday, we had Sir Bob Geldof in, and he was mentioning a special text alert system for missing people. But unfortunately, someone seems to disagree with it and says that we can't microchip our children just because we microchip our pets. So I suppose everyone's entitled to their own opinion. They're not all going to agree with it. I thought personally it was quite a good system, but clearly not all of our viewers do.
OK, and also on Andrew Gosden as well. We know we've had calls, haven't we, on Andrew Gosden, and it has been confirmed his dad is going to be joining us later on in the series. So hopefully we'll have good news for him at some
Really
stage.
good response on Andrew Gosden, actually. That 14-year-old really does want to get in touch with us. I really hope he does.
Thanks to all our guests today for being here. Terry, Natasha, and of course to Nicholas Owen as well.
That's all we've got time for today. Tomorrow, 19-year-old Luke Durbin disappeared after a night out with his friend in Ipswich.
Also, Derek Asker didn't know he had a sister until he was 75, and they're going to be reunited here with us in the studio. So that's it from us. Thank you for all your help. Those lines are open 24 hours a day. We will see you at the same time tomorrow morning. Thank you.